All right, folks. So I'm back on here live once again for like the first time in a few weeks. I know I had some requests, but the circumstances just weren't right at the time. But here I am, live with your boy DJC Combat, yours truly. So I just wanted to get on here and talk about a few things. I don't know how much time I have, how much time I'm going to be on here. But of course, y'all know what the title is. I want to talk about what's going on with Mexico and the UFC right now, and maybe just kind of recap a bit of UFC 290, and then talk about UFC 291, and obviously talk about this weekend's main event, Holm versus Silva, and some other stuff, some like other recent, fight news. So, man, Mexico lately, they went from being literally perfect in the UFC. They were on track in title fights. They started the year undefeated from Brandon Moreno in January, kicking off the year, kicking off the wave by getting back his undisputed belt against Davison Figueiredo. And then Yair Rodriguez the following month, dominant performance over Josh Emmett to win the interim title. Yes, I count interim. I do believe he was one of the three Mexican champs. And then the month after that, it was followed by Alexa Grasso, um, shocking the world, dethroning Valentina Shevchenko, doing the unthinkable. No one thought she could do it. Uh, no one gave Alexa a chance in hell except me, the guy that picked her. And then that kind of raised the confidence in some people that, hey, you know what? Irene Aldana, if these other Mexicans can become champions, so can Irene. And then guess what? Irene Aldana loses. She doesn't become champion at all. And followed by that, two other Mexican champions lose their belts. Moreno dethroned by his boogeyman Pantoja. And Yair Rodriguez fails to unify the belt with Alexander Volkanovski. And now he is no longer the interim featherweight champion. And now we're left with one last Mexican champion. And that does scare me as an Alexa Grasso fan. I believe in her. I still think she's going to pick. I still think she's going to beat Valentina. I'm still going to pick her to win. And I'm not going to make my pick off superstition. But still, you never know. Like things like these usually do happen. Like we do see a lot of domino effects in MMA. I mean, look at Trevor Whitman's team, Trevor Whitman's big trio, Usman, Gaethje, Rose. They all had a perfect 2021 and they all shared UFC 268 together and they all won together on that card. 3-0. Perfect. They walk into 2022 and Trevor Whitman goes 0-3. They go from being the winning team, winning Whitman coach of the year 2021 to then all of them losing. And then we saw this with Africa as well. Even though, one African champ did rise again, Israel Adesanya, still, we saw what happened. We saw Kamaru Usman lose the belt, and then it didn't stop. It led to Israel losing his belt. And then Francis Ngannou didn't come to terms with the UFC, and he left. And before UFC 287, we were left with no African champs left. So that does kind of leave me wondering and worried, like, damn, is it inevitable that Valentina Shevchenko might actually get revenge? Is it written in the stars that we're gonna have no Mexican champs? I'm scared, guys. I'm worried. Okay, I hope Alexa Grasso delivers. I hope she can be that one. I hope that she can like hold strong for Mexico. That's the best way to word it. She's Mexico's last hope. She don't keep score. She settles them. And I think Alexa is gonna settle the score for Mexico. Right now Mexico, I believe they're. Let me see. So they started 3-0 this year, and now they've taken 3 L's. So they're 3-3. Alexa Grasso can get them that nice 4-3. Hopefully not 3-4. But we shall see. This could be the official downfall. And this is the crazy thing about MMA is that you can go from your highest of highs to then the lowest of lows overnight. You can go from being perfect, unstoppable on top to being all the way at the bottom. That's just the nature, the cruel nature of this sport, unfortunately. But I'm still going to pick Alexa Grasso. It's Mexican Independence Day. She can't lose on Mexican Independence Day. Come on, Alexa Grasso. I think the matchup favors her. It's a close rematch on paper. Valentina is a former dominant champion. It's not going to be no easy fight, and she was winning last time. I acknowledge that, but Alexa Grasso, she's got the youth advantage. I believe she's got the evolution advantage. She's constantly getting better, and I just see her adapting and adjusting better. I think her takedown defense is going to be better. I think she'll respond better to the takedowns. She'll be quicker to get back up to her feet. And we're going to see a lot more striking between the two. A close striking match, but the boxing of Alexa Grasso is just going to edge that out. And Valentina is more of like a low output counter striker who can be a little bit hesitant, whereas Alexa is an aggressive, high output volume boxer. And I think that's going to be the difference maker. And I'm going to predict that unless Valentina makes some drastic change or Alexa cannot fix her takedown defense, I think Alexa wins this fight by decision 48-47 and saves Mexico. God willing, knock on wood. But now, this leads into that next topic. So UFC 290 happened, and that was part of the downfall of Mexico. Mexico went 0-2. We lost 2 Mexican champions, Brandon Moreno, unfortunately, and Yair Rodriguez. But the card overall was like next to perfect. There's 2 thorns in my side, but that card is still a 10 out of 10 for me. It could be card of the year. So many finishes on the main card and the prelims too. We saw that crazy upset with Denise Gomez knocking out Yasmin Yaragüe. I missed the co-main of the prelims because I didn't watch that one on Stream East, and I was like on the way to the bar while that fight was happening. But I caught Lawler versus Price on time, and man, ruthless Robbie Lawler goes out with a freaking bang. That's how you get it done. That's how you get it done. I felt like crying when Robbie Lawler won. When Robbie Lawler won the fight and when he knocked him out, I almost cried, almost teared up. When I saw Robbie tear up, I almost teared up because I thought Robbie was going to lose. Okay, I didn't trust him. You know, after seeing his last fight with Barberena, the way he was doing so good, but his durability wasn't there anymore, I was afraid, man, Nico Price isn't as good as Lawler, but he's got stupid power. He might just catch Robbie and just overwhelm him with power like Barberena did. Thank God that didn't happen. I thought of doing a prediction video for that fight, and I was going to pick Nico. I'm glad I didn't, but thank God the legend goes out on top, man. Who doesn't love Robbie Lawler? If you don't love Robbie, you're a hater. Robbie's awesome, and it's good to see him go out on top, man. Especially the week he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. But then that leads into the main card. I mean, we had Bo Nickel showing his good hands against Val Woodburn. Everyone thought that if Val had a chance, it's stuffing takedowns and imposing his striking on Bo and connecting some bombs. But instead, he got bombs connected on him, got knocked out. Bo just showing how well-rounded he is. Even though it was against a cannon, a newcomer, still a good and impressive win the way he won. Yo, what's up, Toron Brown? And then we followed that with Hooker versus Turner. I wish I would have picked Dan Hooker. I wish I would have picked Hooker when this fight was booked for UFC 285. I was thinking Dan should win this no problem. Like, I think Jalen Turner, I mean, he's good, but I think he's a bit overrated. But everyone was like, no, Jalen's going to murder him, even though Dan had just got back in the win column, proving he's not washed up when he destroyed Puelles. Everyone's like, no, Turner is going to dominate him. He's a bad matchup. And I didn't see what other people were seeing, but I just felt pressure. I'm like, okay, fine. When this fight got rescheduled for UFC 290, I'm like, okay, you know what? Fine. I guess Turner is going to beat Hooker. And I didn't go based off my own knowledge and conviction of what I know, which I feel stupid for, especially as a guy who does predictions on YouTube. That is kind of dumb of me. But yeah, off pressure of the popular opinions, I did side with Turner, but I knew deep down Dan could win. And I mean, that was a great fight. I remember the bar was going crazy. Dan turned back the clock. He killed the narrative that he's not the same since the Dustin fight or that his chin is gone. The only reason why he got TKO'd by Arnold Allen is because he was in a weight class he wasn't supposed to be in. He was in the featherweight division, depleted himself. That's why a guy who barely finished his fights, Arnold Allen, was able to TKO him, not because Allen's this big finisher and Dan can't take a punch anymore. Dan can't take big shots in the featherweight division, but at lightweight, he showed he still has a pretty good chin. So yeah, good on him. And I mean, he put the damage on Jalen Turner, getting those knockdowns on him, almost submitting him at the end of round 2, dropping him in round 3. Classic Dan Hooker fight. And he went blonde for that fight. And as soon as he got bloodied up, I'm like, oh my gosh, his hair is about to go pink. That's what happened. One of the best fights of the card. And when it was a split decision, I'm like, are you serious? Are the judges really about to rob Dan? But I realized the judge that gave it to Turner was Adelaide Bird. And I remember she said she's like legally blind. So I guess that's why. One of the worst judges to ever do it, along with Chris Lee and Sal D'Amato. Thank God those two weren't. Or actually, I think Chris Lee might have been judging the Hooker fight. I can't remember. But all I care about is that Dan Hooker didn't get robbed of a rightful win. Turner barely edged the first round, maybe. But the second round, even though Hooker got hurt by the head kick, he did not accept the position he was in. He did not curl up and retreat. He took the fight to Turner, and he turned the volume up to 100, and he made Turner pay. So that round was a clear round for Hooker. And there's no way you can give Turner round 3. That's just ridiculous. So I'm glad the judges got that one right. And then Whitaker versus DDP. Man, Robert Whitaker went out sad. He went out sad, man. Even though Israel Adesanya is like my favorite middleweight, and before Izzy, it was Yoel who was my favorite middleweight. And I was pretty salty back in the day that Rob beat my boy Yoel twice. I got love for Robert Whitaker, man. I appreciate him and what he's done for this sport. I picked him in a lot of fights. I've accurately predicted almost every one of his fights, apart from the first Yoel fight and the DDP fight. But I picked Izzy to beat him twice, and I picked him to win the fights before and after the Izzy fight. Man, DDP shocked the world. I was surprised, but with how many people gave Dricus no chance, that made me really nervous going in. And that made me think, damn, what if Dricus just shocks the world? And it's not like Dricus got a fluke win. He went out there with a good game plan. I do feel like Whitaker was a bit off, but Dricus mentally defeated him. And I feel like if you mentally defeat a warrior like Robert Whitaker, the fight's done. And I think what did it for Rob is, Dricus has that awkward style, and he's very pressuring in your face. And I feel like early on, Robert Whitaker just didn't want to deal with that. So he tried to slow things down, going for the takedown. And then we saw DDP counter with a guillotine that was in deep. He almost got it. That's why Whitaker just let him up. Like, he's like, I'm not going to risk playing on the ground with this guy because he's got good jiu-jitsu, not trying to get submitted. So he was forced to deal with that awkward, powerful striking of DDP. And at first, DDP didn't have much activity in that round. Robert was kind of, teeing off on him. Dricus was just covering up. And I'm like, perfect. Robert's just going to comfortably dance around him to a decision. But then late round 1, Dricus just takes him down. And I'm like, okay, Robert's going to get up. Robert doesn't get up. He gets cut by elbows. And once that happened, even though it's just the first round, you can never be too sure after a round. Sometimes you just know after the first round that the person who wins the first round is going to win the fight. And that's what this fight was. And you could see in Whitaker's corner, he looked like, oh my God, I'm going to lose this fight. And Dricus did a good job with that southpaw jab, countering Whitaker with that southpaw jab. Every time he lunged, exposing the holes in Whitaker's boxing defense and boxing overall. And yeah, that just sucks. And I think Whitaker's chin, it might be gone because, 5 years ago, this guy ate bombs from Yoel. He was like dead for 3 rounds and still went on to win that fight while rocked. Yoel couldn't finish this dude, and he's taken damage throughout his career. A lot of guys couldn't get him out of there. Cannonier didn't really land flush that much in that fight, but towards the end, he landed that southpaw jab. I think Dricus picked up on that, but Till hurt him a few times, and Till can crack. Couldn't finish Rob. MMA sometimes is pretty logic-defying, and this fight was the definition of this sport just don't make sense sometimes. But if you really think and look back and watch, you got to give credit for DDP and his game plan. I do think it was Rob on his worst night, but at the same time, it was Dricus at his best. He just got the nose surgery. He was in the best shape of his life against the biggest fight of his life. Well, the next biggest fight will be the Izzy fight, but he fought Robert, who is like the second best in that division. So of course, Dricus was really prepared at his absolute best, and he came to win. So I can't take away anything from Dricus du Plessis. But Whitaker went out sad, and that broke all our hearts, man. Let me read these comments. Turner isn't all that good in my book. I agree. I think a lot of people overrated him. I mean, who is he beat? He's beaten like a lot of cans at lightweight, and then he beat Brad Riddell. That's about it. And then, I gotta look at his resume right now. Oh, I gotta log into my laptop. Let me see. But I mean, if you could fill me in, tell me who this guy's beat. Hold on a second. Jalen Turner. Turner had like a decent run since he like transitioned from welterweight to lightweight. But I mean, since he moved to lightweight, lost to Frivola, beat Joshua Calabo, who beat Brock Weaver, the dog abuser, or the guy who makes dogs fight each other. Beat Euros Medic, who Jamie Malarkey. I mean, a little bit more of a known name, but still not that good of a win. Brad Riddell, okay, and then close fight with Gamrot, and then lost to Dan Hooker. Yeah, honestly, in hindsight, I really don't understand why so many people didn't give Dan a chance. But the reason why I picked Turner is because, okay, my luck with predictions is so weird. So whenever I go against what a lot of people are saying prediction wise, when I don't listen to those people, they end up right. I'm always wrong. But when I do listen to them, then they end up wrong. It's so annoying. It's like my timing and luck is just terrible when it comes to predictions and agreeing with certain people. So that played a factor into me picking Turner, because I thought, damn, if I pick Hooker, he's probably going to lose. But my luck remained the same pretty much. I picked Turner, and then Turner lost. But at least it got me the result I wanted, which was Hooker winning. I was never that impressed by Turner. Let me read what Neil Patel said. Khabib never fought anyone like the big dog Volk. I would have liked to have seen that fight, to be honest. Alexander Volkanovski and Khabib. I mean, seeing the way he challenged Islam, and everyone thinks that Islam is like a better version of Khabib. I would like to see it. I mean, I think I'd still favor Khabib. His style's different than Islam. I think he might have a bit more power. His chin is better, and he's just more in your face when it comes to the striking. Like, he's good at creating chaos, to get his takedowns, whereas Islam is like very technical and patient, well guarded. I feel like Khabib could really smother Volkanovski on the feet, not let Volk be technical and perfect, whilst posing the takedown threat. Even though Alex doesn't fear takedowns, and he'll still fight his fight on the feet with the takedown threat. I feel like that pressure combined with that heavy grappling style could work. And he might have better luck controlling Volkanovski than Islam did. But that fight, I think, is still fairly competitive. And I would not rule out Volkanovski's chances, man. Jalen Turner's going to be another Kevin Lee, something that had potential but didn't live up to it. Yeah, and speaking of Lee, I mean, Turner missed weight. Like, Lee was notorious for doing it lightweight. And man, Kevin Lee also went out sad. Like Whitaker, he got dropped in the first round, choked out by that Russian dude. He was re-signed with the UFC and cut again. I seriously don't understand why the UFC abandoned their plans to do Ferguson versus Lee 2. That would have been an easy win for Lee. He would have won. They gave him a Russian Mazda that killed Lee. Now Lee can't stay in the UFC, and he's done. I guess it's back to Eagle FC or maybe make a career in BKFC. I don't know what he's going to do. I also think Ferguson has a chance to pull it off against Green. Not like Green is this young up-and-comer. He's a vet like Tony. Yeah, but it's such a bad matchup. And I don't know, man. Tony, he just can't seem to win anymore. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Tony can surprise us. Maybe he'll be refreshed. I hope that's the case, but I'm just not going to bank on it. But yeah, UFC 291. That's a great card. But I want to finish recapping UFC 290 before I get to that. So, of course, Moreno Pantoja. That fight was wild. That fight was insane. I was team Moreno, but man, Pantoja is just, he's a bulldozer. The way he just comes at you, like with these fast hooks, he's in your face. Like Moreno had to like quickly clinch him, pin him against the cage just to slow him down because Pantoja just, with that pressure, it's so hard to deal with. Like only Figueiredo in his prime could handle that. You know what I mean? And then yeah, Pantoja drops him. That fight was chaos. Like he fucked Moreno up twice. Like the way he bloodied and battered up Moreno in the second fight is the same way he did in that third fight. But at least Moreno, even though I wanted him to win, I was happy that he didn't get completely dominated like the first two fights. He did way better. It was a split decision. I thought that, I did think Pantoja did win. I gave Pantoja rounds 1, 4, and 5. I would argue Moreno won the third round because I thought he just did more striking wise despite getting his back took. But Pantoja controlled the majority of the fight with his grappling, and good on him. Even though Moreno's broken arm could have played a factor, it is what it is. It's a fight, and styles make matchups, man. And Pantoja is just a tough matchup for Moreno. I'm sure they'll see each other again. And honestly, man, I mean, Israel Adesanya was 3-0 to Alex Pereira and lost his belt to him and then got it back from him. So you never know, man. Maybe Moreno will finally beat Pantoja. I feel like if they fight enough times, eventually Moreno is going to get him. Eventually he'll get Pantoja. It's not impossible. But right now, I don't want to see an immediate rematch because we were force-fed 4 fights in a row between Figueiredo and Moreno. Please, no more automatic title fight rematches. Even though Royval is easy work for Pantoja, even though Albazi arguably isn't deserving, I'd rather watch him fight either Amir Albazi or Royval. Honestly, I want Pantoja to fight Albazi because I think Albazi brings maybe a better, more threatening style to the table than Brandon Royval because of his wrestling. You know, he might be able to defend Pantoja's takedowns, take Pantoja down, and we saw Pantoja get given that work by a wrestler like Askar Askarov. So I wouldn't rule out Albazi's chances, but Pantoja probably wins that. I think Pantoja holds that belt for a while, in all honesty. I think if anyone's going to beat him, it's Moreno. I think Moreno and Pantoja for a while are going to run that division. But then we got the main event. I mean, how impressive was Alexander Volkanovski, man? I mean, there's a debate between who should be pound for pound number 1, him or John Jones. I think it's just, we're going to have to wait for the outcome of Jones versus Stipe. If Stipe wins, Volk is pound for pound number 1. But right now, I think it should still be Jones 1 because he's Jones and Volk number 2. But man, Volk went out there and did what I said he would do. I said Volk would exploit the weakness in Yair's grappling, not let Yair set traps on the feet. I mean, he absolutely schooled Yair Rodriguez. I had a hunch this will be another one of those challenger gets overhyped against the champion shows levels, like Woodley versus Till, like Nunes Aldana. Unfortunately, I knew it was going to be one of those situations. You know, I mean, I respected the fact that a lot of people were willing to, pick Yair and risk it and risk losing money on Yair, but I just couldn't do it, man. Every time I pick against Volkanovski, it just does not go well. And if I had picked Yair, I would have felt so stupid and so terrible. So I chose right because I know better. I think I think it's still Jones over Alex. Jones has had way more title defenses. Yeah, that's true. And he's done what Volkanovski hasn't done yet. He's became the double champion. So Volkanovski's going to have to beat Islam, which he could. But until then, that's Jones's spot. Pantoja was the only guy who kind of matched Figgy with power when they fought back in 2019. I know that's why I wish they could have like rematched at some stage. You know what I mean? Like, even though now Pantoja would win so easily, like if they were to fight again at 125, Davison cannot make that weight anymore and be healthy. And he's older. Pantoja is younger in his prime. Still, that would have just been such a good fight to happen more than once, and it could have if, even though I love Moreno, he was given way too many chances at the belt. If it wasn't for that stupid over milked fight series, we could have seen Pantoja versus Figueiredo too. And what I wish happened, I wish Davison, after beating Moreno at UFC 270, didn't break his hand. There didn't have to be an interim belt, and that Figueiredo got to defend his belt at UFC 277 against Alejandro Pantoja, assuming we got a healthy Figueiredo against Pantoja at his best. Because Pantoja at UFC 277, that dude showed up to make a statement. He looked really good that night, as good as he looked the following fight against Moreno. But what I think would have happened is, I think if Figgy didn't get injured and they weren't going to give Moreno an immediate rematch, I feel like Kai would have got the title shot, because there's a reason why they chose Kai Kara-France to fight for the interim belt and not Pantoja. So I feel like they would have just made Moreno versus Pantoja on the same card, and then just done Davison Figueiredo versus Kai. And if Figgy was at his best, I think he beats Kai. If not, I think Kai knocks him out. And then Pantoja beats Moreno again in a 3-rounder, close still, and then earns a title shot at the winner of Figgy Kai. Beats Kai for the belt and finishes him this time if he didn't finish him already. And if he would have fought Figueiredo at UFC 283, that's easy work for Pantoja. But still, I just hope that some way, shape, or form they maybe run it back at 135. I don't know. It's never gonna happen. I think we're just stuck with that one fight. But I just really want to see, prime Figgy against this current version of Alejandro Pantoja. But I can only dream and imagine. Speaking of Jones, he has a fight with Stipe in November in Madison Square Garden. I know that's going to be huge. That fight is going to be huge. I see tons of people are counting out Stipe going to the fight, but I'm picking Jones, but I don't think Jones will bully him. It's going to be a fight. Yeah, I agree, man. I think that John is going to win, but it's going to be competitive. Like, Stipe will hold his own, and even though he hasn't fought in a while, Stipe, I think he's gonna be prepared. Like, he's gonna really show up for this fight. Rust could play a factor, but I don't know, man. We might see a dangerous Stipe Miocic who's ready to go out there and shock the world. And Stipe is no stranger to winning as an underdog. But I think John Jones, I mean, he's been more active recently. He had that dominant win over Cyril Gane. I feel like now with one fight back in the heavyweight division, his body might be better adjusted to heavyweight. And I just think he's way too versatile for Miocic. Like, Miocic has a boxing heavy style. He's a boxer wrestler who can defend your takedowns with his wrestling base and box your face in. His combinations are good. His pressure is good. He's good at cutting off the octagon, imposing his will. And he's also very dangerous off the back foot as well. But I think John's going to avoid those big exchanges with Stipe. And I think he's going to keep Stipe at kicking range. He won't let Stipe get close. And I think he's going to stay long. And I think he's going to just use all his tools and just mix it up, body, head, jab Stipe, stick and move, stay behind the oblique kicks to keep Stipe on the outside, chop at the calves maybe, pick at the body with kicks. And then as far as the wrestling, I mean, will we see John Jones get a takedown? I'm sure we will, but I feel like this fight's going to be mainly a striking match, which arguably could be very dangerous for John Jones, because we did see Jones struggle with, prime Dominic Reyes and prime Alexander Gustafsson, tall boxers with heavy hands and good footwork. And Stipe is better than both Gustafsson and Dominic Reyes. So, but John Jones, I feel like by now he's such a veteran. He has such a good feel of that style. And I just see him being a step ahead of Miocic in this fight. But Stipe, well, he might have some moments. He might. And if Stipe does win, I'm not going to be surprised. But I don't know, man. I feel like this is John's time to go out on a win. And we rarely ever see three-time champions in the UFC, you know, other than Randy Couture. And there might have been a few other three-time champions, but usually once someone becomes a two-time champ and loses the belt, that's it. You know, and Stipe already won the belt twice. And I don't know if he's going to come back after 2.5 years at 40 plus, coming off a brutal knockout loss. I don't know if he's going to come back after all that time, coming off that kind of loss and beat John Jones, the great John Jones. I just don't know if that's going to happen. I really don't know, but we'll see. Stipe ain't going to be scared of John Jones. Yeah, I agree. Stipe Miocic definitely ain't going to be afraid of him. I know that for sure. I'm going to say that John Jones wins this fight by decision because I can't imagine him knocking out Stipe on the feet. I mean, maybe he could get a TKO, but John, even at heavyweight, I don't feel like he'd be the most powerful striker, no matter how much weight or muscle he puts on. Maybe he'll catch Stipe with an elbow, head kick, but I feel like on the feet, he probably won't be able to hurt Stipe. And I don't know if he can hold Miocic on the ground long enough to work a submission or pound him out. But who knows? Maybe he could. I mean, Daniel Cormier was able to hold down Stipe in that second fight in the first round in the fight they had in Anaheim. So maybe John Jones could, you know, and I didn't think John could go out there and just easily hold down Ciryl Gane and submit him, and he did. So, but that's Ciryl Gane. He's got no wrestling compared to Stipe. I feel like this fight's going to be mainly striking where John stays out of the way of the big shots of Stipe. Doesn't let Stipe get in a boxing flow, is able to negate that pressure, and just pick him apart, like I said, with kicks, and maybe get some control time against the cage against Stipe, land some good inside tight elbows, gets a few takedowns, but not much control. And through that, Jones will like just outpoint Stipe Miocic potentially. I hope I'm making sense while breaking this fight down. I feel like I'm kind of rambling and all over the place. I feel like this would be like a lot easier if I was talking about this in an individual video, but I'm sure you guys understand where I'm trying to get at with this fight. But that's how I think the fight is going to play out. And I'm going to say John Jones by 49-46 decision. Although I am hoping that John Jones gets a finish. But if this is John Jones's last fight, I mean, we might see another Amanda Nunes situation where one of the greatest fighters of all time, well, the greatest in this instance, goes out on a big win. And this is like the last biggest fight for John Jones to add to his resume. This is the legacy fight, bigger than the Ciryl Gane fight. He's beaten the who's who at light heavyweight. Ciryl Gane is a good win, but I feel like that's just not it. Like if he would have fought Ngannou, that would have been a bigger deal. If he would have beat him, it would have been a bigger deal. And if he used to beat Miocic, that's going to be a big deal. And he doesn't have to stick around and fight Sergey Pavlovich, although he could. Why risk it, you know, fighting that young killer, you know, young lion, dangerous guy like Sergey? If I'm John Jones, I'm beating Stipe, not giving Sergey a chance, and I'm just going to retire off a win because you just never know. John is not getting any younger, and you can't win forever. So, but we'll see how it all shapes up. But if Stipe wins, I wonder, is he just going to retire, or is he going to stick around and try to, you know, make a third run as champion and try to defend his belt going into 2024? Although if he tries, I think he'll get knocked out by Pavlovich. I think Curtis Blades will give John Jones problems. John's got to fight Curtis Blades. I feel John will need to wrestle Stipe. Stipe will be better standing. Yeah, he definitely will need to, but man, if Stipe in this fight has a huge edge on the feet and John cannot take him down, he might be screwed. John Jones might be in trouble in this fight. I mean, there could be trash talk, but there's mutual respect between Miocic and Jones. There might be some like friendly banter, but nothing crazy. Nah, John doesn't have to fight Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades just got knocked out by Sergey Pavlovich. He's done in terms of his title aspirations. Like, he's not getting a title shot anytime soon, and he's not going to get one while John Jones is champion. He's going to miss out on that. I think he's only going to fight for the title if he ever gets lucky enough to make it to a title shot. It'll probably be somewhere maybe in 2024, late 2024, early 2025 potentially, but there will be a different champion or maybe a vacant title fight. But nah, man, I'm done trusting Curtis. I don't see him as a future champion. He always loses when it counts. He had his chance in 2021. All he had to do was beat Derek Lewis. That was the easiest style matchup for himself, and he couldn't help himself but duck into that uppercut, get slept. And then, I mean, if he would have beat Lewis, then guess what? He would have fought Cyril Gane for the interim title. And guess what? He would have out wrestled Cyril Gane, and he would have been the interim champion, and he would have fought Ngannou, and he probably could have beat no knees Francis Ngannou for the belt. But because he fumbled against Lewis, he missed out on what could have been history for him. And then again, all he had to do was get through Sergey Pavlovich, and he didn't. And man, Blades is so unlucky because he was considered as like the backup for UFC 285. Like, it was considered Jones does not get if Jones doesn't get Francis Ngannou. I heard this in like late 2022 per MMA Ideas. Shout out to him on Instagram. You can give him a follow. It said that per that source that if Ngannou vacates, it will be Jones versus Blades. And then out of nowhere, instead the UFC went with Cyril Gane. So Blades got unlucky in that regards. Like, he arguably already could have fought John Jones, but he missed out. The UFC didn't choose him. I can kind of see why they didn't, because okay, he's coming off. I mean, he was on a 3-fight win streak actually, and some good wins, but the win he was coming off of to get a title shot just wouldn't have been appealing, you know? Like, there wasn't even a fight against Tom Aspinall. Aspinall's knee just fell apart in like the first 10 seconds. And Cyril Gane was coming off like an epic war and dominant performance and brutal finish over Tai Tuivasa. And he had a close fight with Ngannou. History tied with Ngannou, who the UFC wanted Jones to fight. So they chose Gane, and the UFC kind of sees Cyril as like the next biggest star in the UFC. If Jones won't be champion, right? So I think that's why they went with Gane, because they thought that's a win-win situation. We either get John Jones becoming the heavyweight champion, who's a big star, or we get Cyril Gane, you know, the pretty boy Frenchman, as the champion. Whereas with Blades, I feel like that wouldn't have been a win-win for the UFC. And that's probably why they made him fight Sergey. Oh, what's up, Brian Williams? Didn't see you there. I mean, maybe, but I don't think Curtis Blades is like out wrestling John Jones. He's not taking Jones down. Jones has really good takedown defense, great balance, and on the feet, I think. Curtis Blades does have good stand up. His footwork is good. His boxing is good. He does have some power. I think Jones could keep that range on Curtis, keep that distance on Curtis Blades, and just pick him apart. Honestly, it would have been tougher though than the Gane fight. Like, any fight in the top 5 for John Jones is harder than Cyril Gane. Like, the UFC, they picked the easiest matchup for John Jones to get that heavyweight title from when Francis Ngannou left. I think Ngannou would have been a more dangerous fight for John Jones than Curtis, though. All right, so Toron mentioned UFC 291, which I want to get into. And man, what a card that is. We got Kevin Holland versus Michael Chiesa, Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green, Paulo Costa versus Ikram Aliskerov, Poatan Pereira, Alex versus Jan Blachowicz, Poirier versus Gaethje. Those are some insane fights, and we just had UFC 290. Can we, the fans, take any more chaos? Like, can we, the fans, handle any more chaos? Oh my gosh. We're about to have another crazy night of fights. I just know it. Kevin Holland always delivers, although it's possible, Chiesa could go out there, make it a boring snooze fest with his grappling. Chiesa could wrestle him to a decision. That's like the only fight on the card I could see being boring. I feel like Kevin Holland, his takedown defense is weird. It's like, it's not the greatest, but he's so good at rolling with takedowns, scrambling. He reacts well to takedowns. He's so good at creating space off his back, like he did to Jacare, where he's able to land those shots off his back. And I don't know, I feel like he might have a good chance at negating the grappling of Chiesa, or if he gets taken down, I can see him threatening submissions, creating space to get back up, and then staying long, keeping that range, and putting hands on Michael Chiesa. And I think those guys are like, the same height? They're both 6'3". I'm not sure who has the longer reach, but I'm going to say that maybe Chiesa has some early success with his grappling. He might win the first round potentially, but then round 2 starts on the feet. I think Kevin Holland's going to crack him good. And I'm going to say Holland gets a submission win, because we've seen Chiesa get submitted by strikers before, like Masvidal and Pettis, or Pettis has good jiu-jitsu. I think it might be similar to the Anthony Pettis fight. I think so. And Kevin Holland also has a slick ground game as well. So I'm going to say Holland by submission. Let me see what these people think. And then we got Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. I hope and pray Tony wins, but he's not going to win, bro. He's washed. He doesn't have anything left. He should have retired off that Nate Diaz loss. That was the perfect fight to retire to. 2 legends going to war in a good fight. Nate's not an embarrassing loss, and now he's taking a loss to Bobby Green, and he's going to go out sad. And it's not, even despite Tony being washed up, it's also just not a good matchup. Tony has this awkward, unorthodox style that's been long figured out. And that style used to work for him in his prime. He could get away with it because of his freak athleticism, but now he's got lower testosterone with the age. He's a little slower now. He's not as athletic. I think his durability won't be there for him anymore. And that awkward style just will not work against the clean boxing style of Green. And Tony Ferguson has always struggled with really good boxers like Michael Johnson, like Justin Gaethje, Nate Diaz, and I think it's going to be bad against Bobby. Tony doesn't really offensively grapple, and even if he tries, Bobby Green has good takedown defense. So I think Bobby is just going to piece Tony up, put the combos on him, and get a TKO. And then Costa versus Ikram Aliskerov. The Aliskerov guy is a good striker, but we just saw what happened to the other Dagestani dude that the UFC tried pushing in the middleweight division. He got put out by Sean Strickland. But who knows? Ikram Aliskerov might be different. And Paulo Costa, he's a weird one. He lacks the discipline. He's not active. He barely takes the sport seriously anymore, but I don't know. He's good, and he's dangerous. He's really strong. He's really durable. He does have power. Aliskerov is unproven. So prediction-wise, I'm kind of on the fence, but I think to be safe, I'll give it to Paulo, but I'm on the fence. And I'm also on the fence with the co-main event between Poatan and Jan Blachowicz. I will do a full main card breakdown and prediction video outside this live where I have no room to be on the fence. But we got Pereira moving up to 205 fighting Jan. And he's doing a 3-month quick turnaround after getting brutally knocked out by Israel Adesanya. But I do think partially, like, what factored into that knockout was, yes, it was a good shot, and Pereira, like an idiot, fell into it by not taking his foot off the gas and falling for the bait. But I don't know if it's Poatan being chinny. It is Izzy's power and precision, but it's also the weight cut. Like, Pereira cuts a lot of weight to get to 185, hence why he's moving up. So I'm sure maybe the chin issues won't be there, but they also could be because he did not take the time to recover. And that was as brutal as a brutal KO can get. And Jan Blachowicz is more powerful than Israel Adesanya. Jan Blachowicz is one of the best strikers in the light heavyweight division, and he's hard to beat in a striking match for anybody at light heavyweight. And he's also more well-rounded than Pereira, and he's the middleweight killer. Like, he always wins against middleweights. Every time they send up middleweights to fight this guy, he sends them packing. Like when he fought Jacare, when he fought Luke Rockhold, when he fought Israel Adesanya. So, well, who knows? I mean, Pereira, this one could be different because Alex Pereira, like, he's a huge middleweight, and he might look really filled up he might look really filled up in the 205 division. I'm sure he's going to pack extra power. If his chin is not affected from that previous KO and the quick turnaround, he could be fine, but does not mean he's not. He does not mean he's safe, though, because Jan still has power. And Jan also can grapple. I think this fight will ultimately come down to how Jan approaches this fight. If Jan comes in here just trying to test the kickboxing of Alex, which he could very well do, he does put himself at risk because Alex, I do think, is a better kickboxer, better striker than Jan Blachowicz. Israel Adesanya was landing on Jan and hurting him, and if Pereira lands those shots, he's going to land with more power, and he could definitely knock out Jan. We've seen Blachowicz get slept by a big, scary Brazilian before, prime Thiago Santos. So it would not surprise me if Pereira would knock him out. And I think the leg kicking battle in this fight will be interesting because you got one of like the sneakiest leg kickers whose leg kicks are hard to defend in Pereira, and one of the best leg kick defenders in Jan Blachowicz. But again, it comes down to is Pereira affected by the 3-month turnaround coming off the KO, and how does Jan approach it? If Jan mixes it up and stays unpredictable with his striking and his grappling, because he can't just straight up wrestle Alex Pereira, because Pereira could adapt and he might be able to time a flying knee. Like, he could lose a round from wrestling, and then the next round starts on the feet. If Jan shoots a bad takedown, Alex could flying knee him. So he's got to be careful. He's got to make sure he can use his striking to set up his takedowns. And his takedowns, the takedown threat to set up his striking. If he gets predictable in either wrestling or striking, Poatan will make reads and he can time something. So 50-50 fight. It can go either way. That's anyone's fight right there. Anyone's fight. Let me see what these guys are saying. Chiesa should stick to commentary. He probably will. Like, after Holland destroys him, he'll probably retire because, I mean, where was he after the Sean Brady fight? He disappeared for a year. I don't know if he had an injury or if he was inactive due to shame. If it was shame, he'll be shamed into retirement from losing to Holland. Stick to commentary like Dominic Cruz. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Dominic Cruz, he's going to get retired soon as well, unfortunately. I think if Figueiredo, if this move to 135 helps him turn back the clock, he's starching Dominic Cruz, unfortunately, and then Cruz will hang up the gloves. He already says he has 2 fights left, but if he gets brutally finished by Figueiredo, that's his last fight. Ferguson almost seems timid on the feet now. He looks kind of slow on the feet. That's the age, and that's also the front kick to the face against Michael Chandler, because if not for that, Tony, with how he looked in that first round, we could have seen Tony maybe sort of catch a second win in his career, but the chances of that happening now are gone. Thanks, Chandler. Tony can have another first round like he did against Chandler. I hope, but I don't think so, man. Bobby has it. You might be right. Jan will smother Alex. Polish power is real for Jan. Yeah, it's real. It's real. But we'll find out. Maybe the camp from Danbury, Connecticut, it might have Jan's number because Glover Teixeira beat him. Maybe Glover Teixeira's, maybe his student, Pereira might follow in his master's footsteps and beat Jan. We will see. I don't have a pick for that fight though, because I could see this fight going multiple different ways. I could see Alex Pereira knocking him out in any round, whether it be the first or second. I could see Jan Blachowicz wrestling him to a decision, maybe finding a submission. I mean, Israel Adesanya was able to control him on the ground. And I think with Alex, like his takedown defense actually is pretty good. He's good at defending takedowns. I just think once you get him there, taking him down is hard because he's big and heavy and strong. But when you get him there, he has no understanding of what to do off his back. Like he's lost. His ground game is little to nothing, and he has no knowledge of how to get up. Like if you get him on his butt, he's good at scooting up against the cage, popping back up. But when Israel Adesanya had him like all the way planted on his back, he had no idea what to do. So I could definitely see Jan wrestling him to a decision, getting a submission, or maybe Alex might get a little bit overzealous on the feet if his leg kicks don't work, and Jan can knock him out. And I think with Alex, with him, he needs his leg kicks to really open up his hands. That's what he did. That's how he beat Israel Adesanya in the first fight in MMA, was he took out the legs of Israel. And then once he did that and Israel was slowed down, he finally got to him in the fifth round. Izzy couldn't move. And I think he could definitely, and that's what he was on track to doing again in the second fight, but he showed no discipline and he fell for the bait. Against Jan, though, like if he can get through that leg kicking defense and Jan doesn't wrestle or can't wrestle, he could break down the legs of Jan, take out his legs, and that can open up his hands. And then he can maybe find a home for that left hook. But if he can't do that, man, just boxing with Blachowicz, even though Poatan can box, he leaves a lot of holes, man. The way he drops his hands after throwing that left hook, Jan could capitalize on that and could knock him out. So there's so many different ways this fight could go. It's really anyone's fight. But I won't be surprised if Jan goes out there and sends Pereira packing. But it would be really good for the division if Alex Pereira could go out there and beat Jan and crack the top three of the light heavyweight division, earn himself a title shot. He's getting the winner of Hill versus Pereira. Or no, sorry, Hill versus Yuri. But if Yuri isn't ready, he might get that shot. He might leapfrog Yuri. We might get him versus Hill. And Jamal might be a better matchup. Yuri might be a better matchup because both those guys don't really offensively grapple the way Jan Blachowicz does. I'm calling it right now. Jan is going to knock out Alex. Very possible, dude. I can see it. I disagree, though. I think Jan is a better striker, and I feel like he's going to be more powerful. He might be, though. He might be more powerful. You might be right. But I don't know, man. The way Alex hits, I feel like I don't know. That's really up for debate, actually. But if Alex Pereira does knock out Jan, if he chins him, which is very hard to do, the debate might be over. And the reason why I say Alex is a better striker is because I feel like he's just more accomplished, like amongst the kickboxing realm. You know what I mean? Whereas obviously Jan is a really good striker for MMA. And does Jan Blachowicz have like a kickboxing background? I might have to do my research on that. But even if he does, I think Alex has had a better kickboxing career than him. Yeah, I don't like the way he leaves himself open either. Alex has no threat, no takedown threat for Jan like Glover did. Yeah, and that takedown threat definitely did pay dividends for Glover Teixeira. And I mean, yeah, and that's how you do beat Jan mainly, is you have to wrestle him. I mean, look at Ankalaev. He struggled on the feet. And then by the time he did adjust and wrestle, it was like a little bit too late. And, he had to go to his wrestling. And I mean, if he would have wrestled sooner, he could have won that fight. But because he waited to like the fourth and fifth, it resulted in a draw because it was really close in the stand-up apart from round 2 because of those leg kicks. But given Poatan's style, I don't know if he needs the takedown threat to open up his striking the way Glover did. Glover, with his wrestling threat, really made a lot of openings for him on the feet against Jan because Jan was so afraid of the takedowns that he did end up getting caught by one like big hook of Glover Teixeira. All right, gotta go. Wife speed A. Thanks. All right, man. Yeah, I mean, tell your wife I said happy birthday, man. Have fun. Let's talk about Justin Dustin too. Oh yeah, I was gonna get into that. Okay, yeah. That's gonna be a brutal fight, man. That one's gonna be an absolute war. I mean, you got two of the most violent guys in the lightweight division, and I mean, Dustin Poirier, he owns that violence triangle. Have you noticed? I mean, between himself, Alvarez, Gaethje, Chandler, and I already said Justin. Dustin has not lost to any of them. He beat Justin. He beat Chandler. He beat Eddie. You know what I mean? And all these guys have shared history with each other. And I don't know if that's going to change. I don't think it will. I mean, Gaethje has a chance, and he has improved. Like, he's not as reckless as he used to be. He's more patient. He moves his feet better. His distance management is better. I just think styles make matchups, and I think Dustin Poirier is a bad matchup for Justin Gaethje. Reasons being, I think between the two, who's hard? I mean, both guys are durable. Dustin Poirier is way harder to finish. He has a better chin, better recovering after you. If you hurt him, he's good at getting back in the fight and recovering. Whereas with Justin, not so much. And Dustin is one of the best finishers in the UFC. Like, when he gets you hurt, he does not let his foot off the gas, and you're done. And I feel like if Justin hurts Dustin, Dustin can rally. He can weather the storm and rally. Whereas if he hurts Gaethje, it's a done deal. And to top it all, I think that even though Gaethje is more patient now, Dustin Poirier is still a better boxer. His hands are better. His hands are more fluid. He's got better combinations. He's more accurate with his boxing. But Justin might have better footwork, maybe. And he does have those leg kicks. But the thing is with Gaethje and those or Dustin and leg kicks is that Dustin is really good at mentally blocking out pain. You know what I mean? He's got such a high pain tolerance. Like, you can kick his legs as many times as you want. Even though they're doing damage, it's not going to stop him from punching your face in and putting on that pressure. All those leg kicks did not save Gaethje from getting finished deep into the fight. So those leg kicks will still be effective no matter how hard, Poirier prepares for them. They're still going to get through. What Justin has to do in this fight, though, he cannot just shell up and leg kick. That's just not going to work because that's what got him finished last time. He threw the leg kick, Dustin countered him down the center, and then Gaethje was hurt, and Dustin just put it on him and got him out of there. He has to set up the leg kicks intelligently and maybe follow. He might need to mask the leg kicks behind his punches. That's what he has to do. That's what he's going to need to do. And I think, him and his team, Whitman is cooking up a good game plan on how to deal with Dustin Poirier. And I do think it's going to be a competitive fight. And I don't think, Gaethje will make a lot of the mistakes that he made last time. But Dustin Poirier might just still be a step ahead. And I don't know how this fight will end. I mean, it could end in a finish either way. I could see Dustin getting another finish, but I won't be surprised if we see this fight go to a decision, where it's like Gaethje, he shows his improvements, better survivability, but doesn't do enough to get it done, and Dustin Poirier is still the better fighter, you know? But I will not be surprised if Justin Gaethje wins, but I got to back the diamond on this one. Because like I said, even though Gaethje's more patient, he's not as technical with his boxing. He still swings. He still overswings a lot of his shots. And no matter how patient he tries to be, I don't know if that's going to help him get a first-round knockout over Poirier like it did against James Vick, Edson Barboza, after poking him in the eye, and a washed-up Donald Cerrone. Dustin Poirier is going to be able to still hang in there and still get the better of a majority of the exchanges in this fight. So, yeah, I favor Dustin, like, but the odds are very close. Like, maybe I'd say like 55-45 Dustin Poirier. Gaethje is a totally different fighter from when they fought in 2018. Oh, absolutely. Like, obviously he's gotten better, and he would have had to have improved. I mean, if he didn't improve, then what's the point of this rematch? And what's the point of this rematch even being interesting if we're seeing the same Justin Gaethje making the same mistakes? Hold on, I'm just logging into my laptop. So I do think it's going to be a different fight for sure, but I think the outcome is going to remain the same. But no matter what happens, I can guarantee we're going to see violence. That's all I know, is we're going to see an absolute all-out war. Both guys are going to be in the hospital after. Like, there's no denying. There's no denying what's going to happen in this fight. Gaethje might retire if he loses. Yeah, and that's the sad thing about this fight. I really like both guys, and this is sort of like the last run for both guys. Like, both guys are fairly young, like 33. I think Gaethje's 34, Dustin's 33 or 32. But Gaethje said this is it for him. Like, he's on his last run to the title, and if he fails, he's losing. So that means either he will lose to Islam or Volkanovski, if Volk somehow, or not somehow, he could get that belt. If he loses to whoever has the lightweight belt, he retires. But if he loses to Dustin, I don't think Gaethje will be willing to then try and go back, put together another streak to get to a title shot. I think he might be like, you know what? I've had a lot of fights. I took a lot of damage. I think that's that for me. That might be the case, which is really sad. I would really hate to see Justin go out in a loss. And same thing with Dustin, man. I mean, Dustin has teased retiring for so long. He said for the last 5 years, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this because I got a daughter, you know what I mean? I got a family, and I don't want to keep taking brain damage. I'm making so much money. And all that money he's making, it definitely is sort of slowing down his passion for the sport. And after he knocked out Conor, he said to DC in the commentary, like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. So, you know, and even after Khabib beat him, he almost retired. So, yeah, both guys I feel like are kind of falling out of love with the sport. So this could be the end of the road for whoever loses. And if it's Justin, I'm sad. If it's Dustin, I'm sad. I don't want to see either guy lose, but Dustin Poirier is like my favorite in that division. And we get to see Jorge Masvidal present the BMF belt and put it around whoever wins. So happy you live right now, bro. Love your channel so much. Me and you are Team Alexa and Team Irene for life. Perdon, Papa, watching you from Puerto Rico right now. I got Dustin same way as one. DJ, I love your content. I listen to you in the morning when I get up. That's great. Did you see my my recent video on Dricus and Izzy, and then the one I did today covering Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria? I mean, that's going to be a great fight, Volkanovski and Topuria. I can't wait for that one. I hope it happens next. I really hope Volk doesn't move up and fight Islam, even though it's a good fight. It makes sense. it's not like there's nothing left for him at featherweight. There's one last big fight. That's El Matador. Even though I favor Volk, it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, Volkanovski will, for the first time in a while, fight someone just as short as him, just as stocky as him, a short, powerful juggernaut. And Ilya will have some of the best hands that Volk has ever gone up against in a while. And he's tough. He's young. He's improving. And he showed good discipline in his last fight. And he doesn't have glaring holes in his grappling like Yair. So we're going to see a lot of striking in. Ilya Topuria does have the puncher's chance in this fight, but he also has more than a puncher's chance. On a technical level, he might be able to hang with Volk on the feet, but then when it comes to all-out scrapping, that could favor him against Volkanovski. But Volkanovski is just way too disciplined, way too smart. He's gonna shut down Ilya's ability to make it messy and sloppy, and he's just not gonna let Topuria just get in the rhythm. And Topuria is just gonna have a hard time finding that chin, and Volk's just gonna chop at the legs and out jab him and just pick him apart for 5 rounds. I think it goes to a decision, but it's competitive. I think Volk wins 4-1, but every round Volkanovski wins, it's competitive. But if Ilya does win, I will not be shocked. Dustin is 34. Damn, wow, I feel old, bro. I mean, I'm like 22, but like, man, it feels like it was yesterday when Dustin Poirier was like in his late 20s, man. And I've been watching Dustin Poirier since like 2017. I've been watching him for so many years, and I've been a fan for a while, man. And then Conor too. Conor's like 34. Conor's no spring chicken either. And it feels like it wasn't too long ago when Conor was like a young up-and-coming dude. Dustin may be the greatest MMA fighter to never win a belt. Yeah, I totally agree, man. I mean, he won the interim title, and he'll probably win the BMF title. Obviously, the undisputed belt is important, and that matters more than anything. But as a fan of Poirier, if he never wins the undisputed belt, I can be at peace knowing that at least he won the interim title. Even though he never beat a world champion. Well, he beat Max, but that was Max coming from another division. But he's never dethroned a champion for the belt. He's had a piece of the world title. That is a big deal. And Poirier's wife was not wrong when she told him, one day you will be a UFC champion. He proved her right by winning the interim belt. So I do put value in interim titles. Yair may have not won the undisputed belt, but he still made history for Mexico. He was part of the big three of Mexicans who held world titles. So, yeah, even though Dustin's never going to be undisputed champion because he's not beating Makhachev, and if Volk gets the belt, he's not beating Volkanovski. If Oliveira gets the belt back, Oliveira probably beats him again. I feel like at this point, no matter who has the title, Dustin Poirier is not going to win it. But at least I can say he was interim champion. It's bare minimum, but it's better than nothing. I've been watching MMA since 2008 and watching UFC in 2009. Yeah, for me, like I was exposed to the sport like as like a little kid, like when I was like I think I was like what? I was like, I don't know, like 5 years old. It's like my dad got me into the sport. My dad got my mom into the sport. And I like see UFC fights on at like family gatherings, but I never like fully pay attention. But it wasn't till March of 2008, at like my cousin's birthday party when I saw my uncle had on Anderson Silva versus Dan Henderson. That was the fight that made me a fan. Like I wasn't like an MMA fan yet at that fight, but I was like a fan of Anderson Silva. Like Anderson was like my first favorite UFC fighter ever. Watching the way he dismantled Dan Henderson. And then 4 months later, I saw Rampage Jackson versus Forrest Griffin, and that's a classic right there. That was a really good 5-round war. And that fight made me a fan of the sport. Like ever since I became tuned in, since 2008, I became a fan of Rampage. I became a fan of Forrest Griffin. I started being more tuned in with like the light heavyweight division, watching all the light heavyweight legends like Lyoto, Rashad, Jackson, Forrest, Tito, all them guys, man. Those guys are like my childhood favorite. And I always like guys like GSP, Anderson Silva. I go way back as a fan, man. Hey DJ, I want to date Alexa Grasso. Same, bro, same. That's my wife right there. I'm just kidding, but yeah, I love her though. I love your pick of Grasso beating Tina. Thank you. I edited that one myself. I love it too. My original picture, like stemming back from my first channel to even the beginning of this channel, was a picture. It was like an EA Sports UFC model of Rose Namajunas with like a title logo, break it down with DJC. And one of my friends, like on Facebook, who's an MMA fan, actually made that for me. Because he knows that like Rose is one of my favorite like WMMA fighters, and back then she was my all-time favorite WMMA fighter. Although now she's got competition, he made that for me. But over time, I replaced it with this Alexa Grasso picture. Max Holloway is such a good fighter. The fact that Volk beat him twice, Max won the second fight. Yeah, I agree. That is insane. It is. Yeah, and man, I respect Volk. I'm not going to debate about the decision. I thought Max won, and I'm biased, but I just wish that Max got the nod in fight two, just so he could have being a two-time champ as part of his legacy before inevitably losing the trilogy to Volkanovski. Like, the rivalry would look less one-sided, and it would be cool seeing them 1-1 and then Volk, settle the score. I would be okay with that. It's way better than Max never being champ again and then going 3-0, man. I hope Grasso beats the brakes off the. Come on, bro. I'm picking I'm picking Alexa Grasso. But we'll see. We will see. The only way that Alexa's losing this fight is if her takedown defense fails to improve from the last fight to this fight, or if Valentina just comes back with some like completely new style change that just throws Grasso off her game and she's not ready for it. Otherwise, even though Valentina was winning, yes, she was winning. She wasn't perfect. And she was losing as long as they were on the feet. You know what I mean? And that's very encouraging for Alexa Grasso, knowing that she actually has an advantage somewhere. And if she can tighten up that takedown defense, I think she can win. I mean, Val has no KO threat on Alexa Grasso. She couldn't finish her on the ground. Grasso finished her on the ground. And I don't know, man. I feel like Grasso just already has her style so well figured out. She already has such a good feel of Valentina. Like, there's really nothing that Valentina can do that's going to surprise her that Alexa has not always already been studying for since she came to flyweight. So I think she's just going to be too adapted, too ready, too evolved. And Shevchenko just sort of etching past her prime, man. But we'll see. I don't doubt Val, but I'm going to stick with my girl, Alexa. Let's read some more comments. Light heavyweight used to be so stacked back in the day, like around 2008, 2009. Oh yeah, that division was really good. And light heavyweight, I mean, it is getting better. We got Rakic, we got Ankalaev, we got Krylov, inconsistent, but Krylov is there. Walker, Jamal Hill, Jan Blachowicz, Yuri Prohashka. There's some good fighters now at 205. Like, it's kind of reviving itself because there was like a time where light heavyweight sort of fell off, like around like 2016 to like 2018, but then it sort of started reviving a little bit in 2019. And now it's way better. Rampage Jackson versus Chuck Liddell. Yeah, Rampage beat his ass twice too, eh? I mean, that was one of like the first, not the first fights I was exposed to, but like I remember I saw my dad watching that fight, and he was like such a Rampage fan. I didn't really care though. I was like, okay, whatever. But it was after the Force fight where I actually appreciated Rampage Jackson, because even though he lost and it was really disappointing for me, I just loved that how good he looked in that fight and the epic fight that he put up and the heart he showed despite getting his legs tore up by those leg kicks. He still fought till the very end in that fight, you know? And so did Griffin. Credit to both guys. You got into MMA in 2018. Interesting. It's crazy how you already have all this knowledge of the sport for such a young MMA fan. Let's see. He has a chance against Volk, I believe, because Volk doesn't really have grappling threat like Charles or Islam. Who Dustin has a chance against Volk? I mean, if we're talking Dustin, I feel like Volkanovski could just out wrestle Dustin Poirier. Like his wrestling grappling is really good, and Dustin doesn't really have the greatest takedown defense. And I feel like Volk, he's so good at exploiting weaknesses. I feel like he could go out there, do what Chandler was doing, but he's more disciplined than Chandler, smarter and better cardio, and he won't gas and he won't make dumb decisions. So yeah, sadly, I think Volk wins that, but Poirier could definitely chin him. I've been watching Dustin since 2009 when he fought in the WEC. Yeah, Dustin goes way back. I wasn't really watching. I mean, I heard of other organizations back then. I started watching the WEC a little bit, like in 2010, when I heard of what Pettis did with that Showtime kick. But 2010 was sort of like the end of the WEC. That's when like the UFC took over. But yeah, WEC produced like a lot of UFC legends. Let's see more comments. I don't give a fuck when anyone says Max won, but I'm not biased. Don't give a rat's ass. I lost the comments. Nico Price, James Vega, those are okay. I lost the comment. Val's Grasso was a real badass. Choked Val until her face was white as milk, bro. Yeah, that was insane. The way like she choked her out, and then when she let go, like Val's face was red, except around her jaw area. Like that was like a tan mark. Like all the blood was like rushing to her face, except that part where Alexa squeezed. Okay, now I found the comment. I don't give a rat's ass what anyone says. Volk did not win any rounds of rounds 1, 2, and 3 against Max. Yeah, Max dropped him in the first two, and then I thought Max just barely won round 3. Like Volk started coming back, but I still edged that to Max because I felt he controlled the octagon more in that fight with his pressure, and he was still landing some good shots too in that round. And then like Volk, round 5 was really close, but Volk just edged it with his takedowns. Oh, MMA Art turned up. What do you think about Macy Barber saying who don't want to fight Pena, indicating it's an easy fight? I already submitted her in train. She said that. Get out of here, man. People like it's so frustrating the way everyone just overlooks and underestimates Juliana Pena, man. It's ridiculous. But I mean, hey, Barber, if you really about that, why don't you move up to 135 and see if you're about that? I mean, Pena would win that fight. I really don't care. Pena would whoop Macy Barber's ass. She's got too much experience. Pena has the durability to handle Macy Barber's power. Pena has an ability to scrap and throw down. Pena also hits pretty hard herself. She can brawl with Macy, and she can out wrestle Macy Barber, and she's better on the ground. And I reckon she could wear Macy out and probably get a submission. But hey, fans will learn when Pena gets the belt back, gets the vacant title back. They'll respect her again. I mean, fans will still like have some things to say about her, but like they'll be like, "Oh, you just beat Raquel. You still have a loss to Amanda." at least she can say she finished Amanda Nunes. She has that to hold on to. And I think eventually people will be like, okay, you know what? We don't like her, but she won and she beat someone on a win streak. So, okay, Pena actually has a good win. She's the champ, whatever. And I think other fighters on the roster will start to respect her too. And I think Macy Barber is full of shit. She did not submit Pena in training. I highly doubt she even trained with Juliana Pena. She's just talking. I favor Barber, bro. Of course you do. I think Pena is okay, but I think Barber would beat Pena with striking and head kicks. I think Pena would beat her with pressure and cage control and takedowns and ground and pound, and would eventually find a submission. Like, yeah, she beat up a chinny strawweight in Amanda Hebus. But this is Juliana Pena we're talking here. Like, look what Pena did to Amanda Nunes. Okay? Do you think Macy Barber could go up there and beat Amanda Nunes on her worst night like that? No, she gets knocked out. Pena went up there against Nunes in that first fight, didn't get knocked out, and mauled her into submission. I wonder how much bigger Jules is than her. Oh, I think the size advantage is pretty clear. I mean, Macy Barber is like what 5'5", Pena is 5'6", but I think frame wise, I think Pena has the advantage. But yeah, Barber, I don't know, she's young but cocky, delusional, and she'll get humbled soon enough. She will, and I'm looking forward till when the day comes. She arguably should have lost her last three, or not last three fights, her last few fights before the fight with Reba. She should have lost to Miranda Maverick. She should have lost to Andrea Lee. Okay, so I'm sorry, Bert. I'm just saying, if you're losing to Miranda Maverick and you need a robbery to win, and you're losing to Andrea Lee, especially getting taken down by Lee, imagine Juliana Pena. And don't get me started on Grasso, who she wants to rematch. It's the same results if they fight again. She will lose the top 5 flyweights anyway. Barber already lost to that old I'm going to say already lost that old bitch. I don't even know her name. There you go. She lost to Roxanne Modafferi. Imagine Juliana Pena. Come on now. Come on. I mean, okay, that's fair, I guess, but I don't know. To an extent, you gotta also favor grappling when scoring fights. Okay, I got one title in this video that I did not get to yet, and that is Holly Holm versus Mayra Bueno Silva. So that fight's going down this weekend, and this is a chance for the young, up and coming 10-2 Mayra Silva. This is a chance for her to potentially go out there, get rid of the old ass Holly Holm, send her packing, and be the new face of the division, the new star moving forward. As much as I want that to happen, though, I don't know if it's gonna happen. I'll probably do more research on Mayra and then maybe actually do an actual breakdown prediction video. But right now, I just don't see how she wins. It's just not a good matchup for her, man. I think Holly should win this fight very comfortably. I think she's way better on the feet. She's faster. She's got the footwork. She's got the kicks. She can keep Mayra from closing the distance with those side kicks. And then Holly is strong too. She can out clinch Mayra, just hug her against the cage. She might be able to take Mayra Silva down and just hold her down. She might just beat her up the same way she beat up Yana Kunitskaya, honestly. And Holly's just one of those fighters that we all kind of love to hate, and we don't want to see her on the top of the division. But unfortunately, we're stuck with her. Like we're stuck with Raquel, we're stuck with Holly, and she's not going anywhere anytime soon. And she's winning this fight, and then I guarantee the UFC is probably going to gift her a title shot. and it's probably going to be Holm versus Pena instead of Pennington versus Pena, just because of Holly's like name value, and she's sort of one of the bigger stars in the UFC, and I feel like the UFC would rather use her name in a title fight against another former champion. So yeah, I got Holly probably 50-45, unless Myra like catches her in like this crazy submission. Cerrone came from WEC too. Yep, same with Dominic Cruz. Bones is the best of all, never gonna lose. I agree. Well, I hope so. I love what Dana does. He makes fights into a big event where we all just have fun and watch together. Like last weekend and like the 29th, man. Dude, I don't know if my heart can take it, bro. Oh, man, we all got to buckle our seatbelts because we got another round of chaos in the next few weeks. UFC 291. I watched 290 at the bar. This one, I think I'm going to watch that one at home. But yeah, I can't wait. Barber is just mean and violent. I mean, she is, yeah, but skill wise, I still don't think she's all that. And she's young too. She's like 25, so she's got quite a ways to go. Like, I'm not saying she's not a future champion, but she won't be a champion right now. Like, she'll probably lose before getting a title shot, and she'll have to like rebuild, reset, keep improving. It might take one or two losses until she like completely grows and molds into like the fighter she needs to be. I'd say I give her like maybe 3 years. Barbara just beat a strawweight. She thinks she's the biggest and baddest. Pena just fought the best of the best. Who did Macy beat? She barely wins against real flyweights. Exactly. Couldn't finish Montana De La Rosa or Jessica I either. I wish Myra beats Holly. I think Myra Silva's Juliana Pena will be a bloodfest war. I mean, you guys really think highly of Myra, and I need to do my research because last time I was live, I think it was Brian Williams or maybe Mason. I'm not sure who it was, or Neil Patel. It was one of these WMMA fanatics on here who recommended me to watch Denise Gomez, and I didn't watch. I forgot. So I slept on her, and she knocked out Yasmin Urague. And then someone told me to watch her fight with Lena Landsberg. Let me look at her shirt dog right now. Let me see. Myra Silva shirt dog. Let me go on that right now. Shitara. Yeah, someone wanted me to watch her Lena Landsberg fight to give me an understanding of how she'll do against Holly. So after this live, that's going to be part of my homework is I'm going to watch that fight on Fight Pass. Most insane card. Yeah, dude, Denise Gomez. Holy shit, man. That girl is a beast. Like, I just assumed Yasmin was going to win because she was Yasmin and people are talking about her. But damn. Her and then that Natalia Silva chick. She's like the strawweight version of Natalia Silva. I think Natalia Silva is a flyweight, right? Wow. Bruno Brazil brutalized her, knocked out Yasmin Urague. And then she had this like one decision loss last September to Konlak. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Decision win on the Contender Series. How many wins? And then she has like 6 wins by knockout and 2 decisions. Wow. And she's 23 years old too. So I mean, right now, she probably isn't like top contender material. And I think the UFC, they're gonna want to like take it slow with her and pad her record, give her as much favorable matchups as they can for right now. But after a few years, it might be time to start talking about her as a contender in the division. But who knows? Maybe she'll fight a ranked contender sooner than we think. And maybe she's ready, but you never know, man. I don't like when prospects get rushed and they lose and they're not the same after. And I don't want that to happen to Denise Gomez. But you know what? I think the UFC could probably give her someone in the top 15, maybe like Angela Hill. I reckon she probably smokes her. Maybe Luana Pinheiro. I mean, I know the UFC doesn't really like matching prospects against each other, but that wouldn't be bad. Maybe get rid of Michelle, fight Tabitha Ricci. Those would be some good fights for her. La Cala Gomez is scary. Facts. Yeah, she's got insane striking. I care nothing about this weekend's card. Yeah, me neither, man. Like, the fights on this weekend's card suck. Like, the card is terrible. I'm on Sherdog right now. So the main event is Holm versus Silva. And then you got Albert Duraev, Jun Young Park. Didn't Jung Young Park lose to Shamaev? Oh no, I think he beat a guy who Shamaev sunned. Albert Duraev is decent. Walt Harris is coming out of hiding against the fat heavyweight can and Josh Parisian. Although there is an interesting WMMA fight. We got Norma Dumont versus Chelsea Chandler. I heard Chelsea Chandler is pretty dangerous. I got to watch more of her fights. Norma Dumont's pretty good with her striking. Ottoman Azaitar, heavy hitting lightweight against Francisco Prado. Don't really know much about him. And then Terrence McChinney. I called him McChinney because of his last couple fights. Although can't fault him for that. I mean, he's fighting Drew Dober and Bonfim, two powerful dudes. But Terrence McKinney fighting Nazim Sayak. I'm not sure if this is like on the prelims or main card. Let me see. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it's a 6-fight main card, then Terrence is on the main card. But who knows? He might be on the prelims. I'm not sure. But outside of Terrence and Azaitar and Dumont and Chandler, this whole card just ain't it for me. And the reason why I mentioned Chandler and Dumont is because from what I heard about Chandler, I mean, she's a ferocious striker. And Norma Dumont's also a really good striker too. And I do sense a high action fight. Whereas Holly versus Silva is just going to be a bore fest, I feel. Yeah, Myra improved a lot. Her striking is good. Now she has that Brazilian power and amazing jiu-jitsu. So dangerous. Well, I hope she puts the power on Holly Holm. I need to speak down a little bit because it's getting a little bit late at night. Don't want to disturb the peace of my house. And I talk loud, but yeah, I hope that I really hope that she does knock Holly out or drop her and submit her. Volk is Island? Is insane. Okay. How is he beating all these 145ers, bro? Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I did not expect him to go on this GOAT run. I mean, when he beat Max the first time, I was a little bit skeptical, but I thought, yeah, if he beats Max twice, he'll probably be champ for a long time. But I thought maybe Brian has a good chance to beat him. But I did pick him to beat Max again, but then seeing how Max pleasantly surprised me and won the way he did, don't care what anyone says, and they robbed him, I was like, you know what? I think Max, if he can get a trilogy, dethrones him. But I also thought Brian Ortega stylistically has a good chance because Ortega is pretty good on the feet. He has some power. And because he has the jiu-jitsu threat, he's not afraid of the wrestling of Volkanovski. He can put on that pressure, make it a scrap, and hurt Volk, and maybe submit Volkanovski. And you know what? He was close. And I did say that, you know what? Ortega, he has that toughness. He can last in the fight and eventually find a submission, which almost happened. But Volkanovski is a human cheat code with his toughness, and he's not human. And he didn't pass out from the choke, and he escaped the Brian guillotine and made me look foolish. But I remember Toron Brown, if you're still here, I remember, Toron, do you remember when I on my old channel, I posted my prediction video for UFC 266, and I picked Brian Ortega to win, and you commented, Volkanovski's winning. He's not giving up the belt that easily. Man, you were right, and I should have listened, and I should have known. But knowing what I know now, if Volkanovski versus Ortega was booked for the first time now, I'm picking Volkanovski all the way, seeing what he's done since. But before then, I didn't see the massive improvements from Volkanovski. His resume wasn't that big back then. I saw him as more beatable, and I thought Ortega was a good style against him. So I picked Brian. But then when Brian didn't win, I picked him to beat Zombie, I figured, but I'm like, I'm gonna pick Max to beat him. And he destroyed Max, almost beat Islam, and now he's still dominating featherweight and is probably gonna beat Islam in the rematch. So yeah, Volk exceeded all our expectations, man. This guy is unstoppable, and he's going to be hard to beat for a long time for anyone at lightweight and featherweight. Like Volk has just had a perfect career. Like his career might end like Amanda Nunes. Like he just might retire as the champion without ever losing the belt. And I feel like by 2024, he won't be featherweight champion, but not from losing. I think he will be featherweight. He won't be champion because he'll get bored of his division. There will be nothing left. He'll beat Ilya. He'll vacate. And maybe by then he'll be like the lightweight champion. So maybe he'll be dedicated to lightweight, or he just might want to start a permanent run in the lightweight division. And then who knows, maybe some guys at lightweight might be able to beat him, but we'll see. Volk is a freak athlete, man. He's an animal. Yeah, and it's crazy how Max Holloway beat him, and then Volkanovski massively went on to improve. And that's why I was so mad they didn't give it to Max, because even though I thought Max would win a trilogy, still, I don't know. I was worried. I was like, man, that was a tough fight. That was a tough fight. And Volkanovski is probably going to adjust in the trilogy. He's probably going to level up. And this is always going to be a tough guy for Max to take the belt from. So I was so mad that night the judges did not give Max that decision because he deserved it. That was like his one chance to be champion that was like blown out the window. Jones versus Stipe prediction, bro. I gave it earlier in this live, but yeah, I'll say it again. I think John Jones, I think he beats Stipe Miocic simply because, I mean, for multiple factors. It's John Jones. He's more elusive, more well-rounded. I think outside of the boxing Stipe has, I think overall John is a better striker. And John Jones just recently came back from his layoff. Stipe is finishing his layoff. This is the longest layoff of Stipe's career, coming off the most brutal loss he's ever suffered. And last time Stipe came off a long layoff, a year layoff, and a KO loss, he did not look that good in the second DC fight until he came back late and got the finish, you know? So now imagine him in his early 40s coming off 2.5 years, coming off an even worse knockout loss. And against John, if he looks like the way he did against Cormier in the second fight against John Jones, he's screwed. And he's not going to rally and finish Jones because Jones, unlike Cormier, is almost like the perfect fighter, and he just doesn't make many mistakes, man. Like with Stipe, you kind of have to be perfect because he's very good at capitalizing on mistakes. His IQ is good. His ability to adjust is good. But John Jones is just, he's too smart, and I feel like he's just not going to make those mistakes that like past opponents made. I feel like with Cormier in that second fight, he didn't wrestle a lot, and he got in a slugfest with Stipe, and he didn't listen to his corner when they said, stop brawling. We need you to wrestle. He's like, what? Am I losing? So he didn't listen, and he kept taking damage throughout the rounds. I mean, the body shots are part of the reason why he got TKO, but I also think he got finished because all that damage was accumulating, and John Jones is not going to give Stipe that. And he doesn't have a body shot weakness. So, yeah, I think John Jones, I think he wins a rather comfortable, semi-competitive decision. Although a finish wouldn't surprise me. Jones' last fight, or he fights Pavlovich. I think it's his last fight. I think he means it. I mean, John, he could maybe just be saying that. maybe John, if it depends on how he feels against Stipe. If a good performance, if he feels good, and maybe the money's right, maybe he'll fight Sergey Pavlovich. Maybe, because the fans are asking for it. They want it. But I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's of Jones' interest. I feel like he's just right now looking for big fights for his legacy, and Stipe is the biggest possible fight, the greatest heavyweight of all time. And I think he wants to add that to his resume and then just ride off into the sunset. I feel like beating Sergey is a good win, but it really doesn't do much for him. So there's really not much motivation in fighting Sergey for John Jones. And it's a risky fight because Sergey is getting better. His takedown defense is good. He's the same reach as John, and he's powerful. And he's hard to stop once he puts his foot on the gas. So I don't know, man. I don't know if John wants to risk that, but we'll see. Mexico's downfall in MMA. Yeah, I covered that earlier. Mexico is indeed on the downslope, and it's up to Grasso to save the day. And I'm worried because we've seen this before. I said earlier in this live that we've seen domino effects in MMA. Like Whitman's team was on top of the world in 2021, 3-0 at UFC 268. And then they went 0-3 in 2022 in total, with Rose losing to Carla, Gaethje losing to Oliveira, Usman losing to Leon. And then with Africa, we had 3 African champions, and then we went from 3-0, but now we have 1 African champion, Izzy. But it went from 3 African champs to Usman losing, which led to Izzy losing. And then Ngannou didn't lose, but he left the UFC. And he probably was going to lose to John Jones. So this makes me afraid. What if it's just destiny? What if it's fate? What if the Mexican sweep is going to go from clean sweep to then being clean sweep? That doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean. What if they go from being unstoppable to then now losing back to back, like Aldana, Yair, Moreno, and Grasso? Like, we could literally have no Mexican champs in the next 3 months, and Valentina is a threat, and I respect her as a threat, and I am afraid, but I'm praying to the dear Lord that he allows Alexa to keep this belt at least for 1 defense, and then she can lose to the winner of Santos Aaron. I do care, but I at least want her, for her legacy, to beat Valentina twice and at least have a title defense. That's all I ask for. Russia has a campeon. Yeah, they have Islam Makhachev. They did have Peter Yan, but, bad luck. Don't want to get into that. And next year, I think Sergey's probably getting that belt if John Jones retires. Yeah, Stipe's old, inactive, and he's just got 1 foot out the door. He's not really fully dedicated to the sport anymore. Like, a prime Stipe is always a hard fight for John Jones, but this Stipe right now, it's just hard to pick him. Like, I don't know. Like, a few years ago, when Jones versus Miocic was talked about, when John was a light heavyweight and Stipe was the heavyweight champion, I favored Stipe because if John would have moved up then, he would have been at heavyweight in his light heavyweight frame. Stipe would have had a size advantage, and is already kind of a tough matchup for Jones at his best. But now John is big. He's built himself into the weight class, and he's been more active recently. So I think that's going to favor him against Stipe. Jan's career is done. Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, he's making a camp change, so let's see how this benefits him. Prime Stipe was 2017. Yeah, but I mean, he was still winning after that. I mean, he dominated Ngannou in 2018, and then he had that 1 loss to DC, but then he came back, won the rematch in 2019. And 2020, that was the best Stipe has ever looked. He looked in the best shape he's ever looked. His movement looked good. He looked great in that DC trilogy. So I think that might have been the last of prime Stipe. And I think Ngannou knocked the prime out of Stipe. And I think Stipe hurt his career by taking this much time off. I feel like if he was more active since the Francis fight, he could have had a better chance at remaining at the top of the division and still winning, and maybe would have had a good chance of being champion. But yeah, he messed that up for himself. Yeah, that's annoying though. The fact that he beat O'Malley clearly, but the UFC wanted a new star at the top. They didn't want someone who was 0-2 to the champ to fight the champ, so they rigged that in O'Malley's favor. But whatever. Ngannou beat Steep. Yan beat O'Malley. He lost to legit Aljo and Merab, though. That's true. Yeah, Merab beat Yan the worst anyone's ever beaten him in his career. Stipe is fucked. Aljo is good. Yep. And I think Merab will be champion after Aljamain beats O'Malley and moves up. All right, one sec. All right, though, but let me just check my title of this live. If there's like anything else I have to cover, I think I pretty much went over everything. Oh yeah, Islam will be champ for a while at 155. I hope so, man. I mean, I feel uncertain about the Volkanovski rematch if it happens, but if he doesn't have to fight Volk or Volk can't beat him, no one's beating Islam. Not Oliveira, not Saryukian, not Benil on the rebound, not Gaethje, not Poirier, not Chandler. None of these dudes beat Makhachev. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, Merab is definitely probably on he's probably on EPO. I can't say for sure because I have no proof, but it's crazy how like his cardio massively improved because I'm pretty sure he used to slow down in fights. No, now all of a sudden he can just go at a hard pace like that without slowing down. It's crazy. He's like the bantamweight Colby Covington. Yeah, Volk is crazy. I mean, the way he had Islam on his back and he was punching him in the face while defending the choke, that was insane. I want Max at 155. I'm tired of seeing him at 145. Yeah, exactly, man. Like, why is he still in the division? I mean, I saw Max's reaction to UFC 290 on YouTube, and he said, I don't want anyone to throw at Alex. I want him to stay champion. I want to be the one to beat him. I'm like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, shaking my head, man. I get you took inspiration from Izzy versus Pereira, but that's Izzy versus Alex. Not everyone beats their boogeyman, and Volkanovski is just better. And with how he made a statement in that trilogy and sealed the deal, there is no way the UFC is making that trilogy. Max will die if they make that trilogy. And Max is kind of ruining the division, staying atop as the number one contender, beating these up and comers, and then giving Volk literally no one to fight while Volk can't fight Max. So yeah, I hope they don't make Topuria versus Holloway. Max better keep his word by going to lightweight, building himself in that division, and just move up. Just move up. Please. Please, unless Volkanovski vacates and leaves, then stay at featherweight. But if not, yeah, bye-bye featherweight for Max. Come on. EPO is basically like a performance enhancing drug that boosts your cardio. And that's what TJ Dillashaw actually was not accused of. He did take to help himself make the flyweight division, which got him suspended. Who would you rather be after Volk? Who would rather be after Volk? Islam. One if they fades was destroyed, and it wasn't Volk. I'm sorry, I didn't really understand that comment. You might have to rephrase that for me. EPO Marab. All right, though, but unless anyone like has any final thoughts they want to say or any questions, I've been on here for like an hour and it's getting a bit late now, so I think I'm gonna sign off this. But I'll be going live again in the future, and hopefully real soon. Oh, who would I rather be after Volk versus Islam? I would rather be Islam. I would rather be Volkanovski because Volkanovski just doesn't get tired. He didn't fade. Islam's body was broken down after the fight. Volk was like as fresh as a daisy. Other than like maybe like one cut between his eyes, he was good. So yeah, I'd rather be Volk. Oh yeah, his Volkanovski destroys everyone's face. Like ever since that second close Max fight, dude just became the Terminator. Like people after like the two Max fights and the Aldo fight were saying Volk's like this boring decisionator, points fighter, and people used to make these Volk by decision comments, but he came back and started brutalizing folks like Ortega, Zombie, brutalized Max, cut him between the eyes, gave him that big ass cut that was bleeding nonstop, battered Islam's face, battered Yair's face. He's like the featherweight Tony Ferguson, the way he's like bloodying up everyone's faces and having like compilations of these damaged up faces like they used to have for Tony Ferguson. He'll move up still. If I'll move up still if I was Max Holloway, even if Alex isn't champ, because Holloway becomes champ again. Who's he really gonna fight at 45? He's beaten just about everyone. I mean, he hasn't fought Ilya Taporia yet. There could be a rematch with Yair, a rematch with Arnold Allen, but that is true though. Like I was saying the same thing about Robert Whitaker. Like, if Whitaker is to get the belt back, which is never going to happen now because he just went out sad. If he was to get the belt back, let's say he beat Dricus du Plessis and then beat Izzy in the trilogy. There's an Izzy fourth fight, and then who is he going to fight? Cannonier again, Marvin again. Like he's pretty much cleaned out the division, so it's the same for Max. So yeah, you have a good point, but if I was Max and Volkanovski vacated, I'm still fighting for the featherweight belt no matter who it's against, winning that belt, and then I'm moving up. Like, if Volk lets go of the belt, Max should take one more shot at that title at featherweight before moving up. I want to see Izzy versus Hill. Oh, I highlighted a comment. Damn, I didn't mean to do that. A judge fight should be based on who you'd rather be at the end. Oh yeah, because of facial damage. Yeah, I remember Dan Henderson said that I wish they would judge a fight by how you look after the second Bisping fight, because you remember Bisping's face was destroyed. Um, but yeah, Izzy versus Hill. I'm gonna highlight this comment. That would be a really good fight. I think Israel Adesanya could beat Jamal Hill because Jamal Hill is mainly just a striker. He's never shot a takedown in his UFC career. He may be bigger and like he matches the height of Izzy, but I think Izzy's a better striker, and I think he could, potentially outpoint Jamal and maybe beat him by decision. Like Izzy has a good shot at being a champ right now. If he gets past Dricus du Plessis, I hope he does. I think he will. But if he gets past Dricus, and let's say he wants to move up, and let's say Jamal Hill remains the champ at the end of it all, if he gets through Yuri, if Poatan doesn't get that belt, because I kind of favor Pereira at 205, if Jan doesn't get that belt and it's Jamal Hill, or even Yuri, I think either of those fights are actually favorable for Israel Adesanya. So now is the time for Izzy to be a champ. So he could do it. Hill versus Alex is good. I think Hill wins that. Yeah, me too. I mean, obviously Pereira is a dangerous fight for him because, he's got the power. He's the same height as Jamal, same reach. Both guys are good boxers, but Alex is a better kickboxer, and Jamal does not check leg kicks. And Alex has very good leg kicks, and he can definitely hurt him to the legs, and he can also hurt Hill to the body as well. And Alex will be one of the hardest hitters that Hill has ever gone up against. So it is a dangerous fight, but I mean, if Adesanya can chin you, why can't a heavy puncher like Jamal Hill? So I think Jamal Hill probably can make it a scrap and find that chin. Like if it's clean and technical, Pereira could maybe pick him apart, but if Hill can make it a bit messy, although Hill can fight technical too, I think he can, in a wild exchange, I think he can knock out Pereira. Jack Adela has a new opponent, bro. Have you seen it? Who is he fighting? Who is he fighting? I heard he's fighting this weekend, or maybe the weekend after that. But who is he fighting? Izzy is juicing so hard he grew its hit. No way, bro. Who is Jack fighting? Yeah, I'm not gonna get into the whole Izzy juicing topic, man. I mean, we have no proof. It could be obvious because yeah, it is weird how he grew a boob. But people are basing him juicing off the fact that he's getting knockouts when it's like, how many kickboxing and boxing fights has he had? He's had so many fights across combat sports where he's knocked people out. The fact that he knocked out Whitaker, he didn't have a boob when he fought Robert Whitaker. I don't think he juiced in the first fight. He could have been juicing against Paulo, maybe, but I don't know. I mean, maybe he could have been juicing against Pereira, but I just think the fact that Izzy's getting these finishes is because of his precision, and he's able to find the chin. He's able to find the sweet spot on the dome of his opponents, whether it be the temple or around the ear spot. He's just so accurate, and a well-placed punch from a high-level striker like that can put out anyone. So Basil Hafez, that's the guy Jack is fighting. Okay, I got to do my research on that guy. Let me see. Who is that guy? Bazil. I feel bad for that other guy who is going to fight Jack. I gave him so much crap for pulling out last minute. When I found out it was like a brain problem, I immediately deleted my comment. That really sucks. And then he got cut too. That's terrible. But I'm glad at least Jack has a fight. I'm glad. And I missed that announcement because I've been live for so long, for nearly 2 hours. They love accusing fighters of using drugs. Everyone but Connor. Yeah, Connor's obviously juicing. I mean, why do you think he's avoiding USADA? He's ducking USADA, and USADA's protecting him. That's why they barely test him, because it's like, yeah, Connor's on all kinds of shit. Yeah, I could see Volk juicing low key, but I don't want to make any accusations. Volk is just an animal. These CKB guys are all on roids. I also hear speculation that people from Tiger Muay Thai juice, and Volk, swings there from time to time, back and forth between CKB and Tiger Muay Thai. Yeah. And Michael Chandler is going to absolutely clap Connor's cheeks 100%. If he fights a smart fight, goes out there, uses his wrestling, he should destroy Connor pretty easily. I mean, I know we all would love to believe Connor comes back like prime Connor, but he's coming off a brutal injury and a long layoff. I don't know, he might not be the same. And Chandler's just not a good matchup. I think Chandler's going to submit him. I think he's going to batter him on the ground and submit him in the mid rounds. And he might KO him. Yeah, Fiziev and Yan, they get accused of steroids too. Yep, Chandler's definitely going to beat him. But all right, thank y'all for tuning into this live. But yeah, like I said, it's getting late, and some people in my house are sleeping now, and I'm sure the house wants peace and quiet. So yeah, I'm gonna sign off this thing. I might make some videos after, but I will definitely be going live again sometime soon. Thank you everyone for joining, and yeah, peace.